Hi and welcome to another Hodge Podge Australia video. Today we are doing a giant cupcake. I have a pink strawberry cupcake shell made out of chocolate. I have pink flavoured buttercream, that's actually strawberry flavoured, and I have vanilla flavouring for a crumb coating. I have already made the cupcake, and as you can see the top has gotten stuck a little bit, but we're going to fix that up and we're going to level off the bottom. A couple of days ago I made butterflies, so they've been sitting out drying. I've just done 3 different shades of pink in various sizes. I've used a big 30 egg container from Costco to use to help me with my drying. So as you can see they're nice and solid now, and they all have the lovely imprint on them of the butterflies, which we're going to decorate on the top. So let's go ahead and start. I just tinted some white chocolate to do the case with some pink, and I made that days in advance. So the good thing is you can sort of do this over days if you need to and you want to space it out. Now we're going to start trimming the cake, so we're just going to use our bread knife and we're just going to work it around in a circle so that we're not tearing at the cake by just dragging it through one way. Leveling it off, we're then going to do the same with the bottom. What I've done here is I've used some offcuts to fill in the circle at the top, and what we're going to do is we're going to crumb coat it now, and that's going to smooth it all down so it'll look like a perfect circle top. Once we have the crumb coat on, using our spatula and just using our white buttercream, we're going to do the crumb coating and then we're going to pop it in the fridge to set. Time to move on to the bottom layer. We're going to split it into 2, so just using our trusty bread knife again. I'm finding what I believe to be the centre of the cake, and I'm just going to slice it in half. Nice and easy. Again, twisting the board a bit so I'm not pulling on the cake. And there we have 2 halves. Well, we will in a minute. There we are, 2 halves. Ta-da! What I'm going to do is, that was still a little bit warm, so I'm just going to leave it to dry. Right, now it's dry, or cooled. As opposed to drying, it would have been dry, it just needed to cool. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to trim the sides off the giant cupcake because I need it to fit in the chocolate case. So we just trim the edges off from around the cake. Doesn't need to be fancy, it's all going to be filled with buttercream. So just on an angle, going down, taking the edges off, popping them into a bowl to use later for offcuts, or you can put them into cake pops or anything else. Trim the edges off, and then that will fit nicely inside the chocolate shell that we have made before. Now if you haven't seen the tutorial on that, I have done it in a previous video and I'll put the link in now. Just click on the button if you'd like to see that. Or, which actually I got from the fantastic YouTube channel My Cupcake Addiction. She does a great tutorial on it as well. I'm now going to do the same on the top so that we can fit it all into our chocolate case. Right, now let's get filling. So we'll put our chocolate case down, we're going to put our base in, and then we're going to add in our strawberry flavoured and then pink tinted, because I really wanted the nice slices down the inside to have the vanilla cake and the pink icing and the pink case, which unfortunately the person I gave the cake to for their birthday did not get a photo of it once it was cut, which was a bit of a shame because I would have loved to have seen the layers. However, we're putting in the pink coloured and strawberry flavoured icing into the middle. We're going to smooth all that down so we've got a nice smooth line and a lovely layer of buttercream, and then we're going to add the top on. Now that that's smoothed out, you can see we've got a lovely layer in there. We're going to add the top onto the cupcake. In it pops. I think that's come out quite nice and flush actually. We have our top of the cupcake in, so that's the whole bottom done. We're going to put the rest of the pink icing onto that, and we're going to smooth that one out as well, and then we can add our top. Here we have our cake all together, so I've added the top on. I've put buttercream in between any gaps between the top and the bottom and pushed it in. I now have some white modelling chocolate that I'm going to roll out into a worm or a snake or however you like to call it. And I'm going to put this on top of the buttercream, which is nice and hard, to make the swirly effect under the fondant. Again, I got this from My Cupcake Addiction. I think she's a fantastic YouTube channel, very inspirational. I mean, I'm still learning, as you know, and if I can do these from watching her, then you can do them as well. We're using modelling chocolate, which I also made myself from a video on, I think it was on my my cupcake addiction. Mine was a little bit soft, so it broke a few times and it stretched every time I picked it up, but it was my first attempt and it still worked just fine. Once you have it placed on your cake, you can readjust any areas that you need to, and you can just squeeze the modelling chocolate back together, so it's very forgiving. Now we're going to put that aside. We're rolling out our fondant. I'm using just your plain white satin ice to put on the top. I've rolled it out into a nice circle and we're going to place it on top of the cupcake. So it's going to go over the modelling chocolate, over the buttercream, and it's going to give a lovely rippling effect for the top of a cupcake. Once you have the fondant on, you're just going to want to press down slightly in between where the modelling chocolate is and smoothing it down so that you have the bumps in there nicely. This was actually really easy, so I know that sometimes it can be a bit scary working with fondant, and the more practice you have, the better you get at it. As I've mentioned before, and I know I'll mention again, I am a novice, I am still learning, but I found this actually very easy. It looks technical, it sort of sounds a bit, time involved, but it was such an easy effect afterwards that I'm just absolutely thrilled with it. You're just going to want to run your hand around, smoothing it out between the modelling chocolate. I actually found that putting the fondant on the top of this cupcake was easier than covering a cake in fondant, because with the cake you've got to get it all the way down to the bottom, to the board, without getting any ripples in it, whereas this we're going to cut off the excess. And I just use a pair of scissors, nice clean pair of scissors obviously, to cut the excess off where it meets the chocolate case at the bottom. So smoothing it out, and then we're going to get our scissors and we're going to trim it off and smooth it down. Here we have it all done. There we are, nicely smoothed around. I do have a little hole there which I'm going to patch up with a little bit of fondant. All I'm going to do is pop on just a tiny little piece and I'm going to smooth it down with my finger so that it all joins together. But I think that looks really lovely and I can't wait to put the butterflies on top. First we're going to attach it to our cake board, which I have covered in fondant, just a plain white fondant again on a nice circular cake board. I've melted some white chocolate and I'm going to add it into my Ziploc bag. I'm just going to find the positioning I want for my cupcake on the board. I'm then going to cut a small little hole in my Ziploc bag. I'm going to put a little bit of white chocolate down onto the board and we're going to attach it and adhere it to the board. Now comes the really fun part. We get to start putting the butterflies on. So I'm going to start with one of my large butterflies. I've done it in the darkest pink, or it's come out a little bit purple. I'm going to add a little bit of water to the back of the butterfly and I'm going to attach it right to the top so he looks like he's landed on the top of our cupcake. So a little bit of water just right in the centre using my lovely water pen and sticking it on. And we're just going to repeat that process with different butterflies. We get to experiment with which colour we want where, and we're going to cascade them down on the cake. When it comes to adding the butterflies to the chocolate, water's not going to do it. Well, it doesn't for me. So what I'm going to do is I have once again just melted some chocolate in a bag. I'm going to place some chocolate onto the middle of the butterfly. A little bit of white chocolate just to strip down the middle. Doesn't even need to be much, and you don't want much because you don't want it to ooze out these sides when you squeeze it down. My chocolate is being a bit difficult because it did start to harden. It's winter down here in Australia at the moment, so things go hard very quickly. A little bit of chocolate in the middle, finding where you want the butterfly, a little bit of pressure, don't need to hold it for very long, and the chocolate is stuck to the chocolate. So then we're going to once again play with the colours and stick them onto the cake. This is what we've ended up with the cake floating around. I think it looks just beautiful. So many butterflies, it's so colourful and it's so effective, and really it's so easy. And again, because you can do it over days, doing the butterflies one day, doing the chocolate case another day, and then putting it all together. You can see I've added some royal icing written sweet 16. I then also put a couple of butterflies on the other side, and we have a gorgeous cake. Thank you so much for watching another Hodge Podge Australia video, and I do hope you subscribe.